Welcome to Docta Business, the channel where mental health becomes a strength and entrepreneurship a tool for empowerment. I'm Dr. Charlene Mayton Richards, a psychiatrist and also a businesswoman. Here on my channel, Docta Business, we talk openly about everything that goes on in your mind and sometimes in your wallet. On Docta Business, your mind becomes your strength. Today, I'm going to explain how, despite my profession as a doctor and psychiatrist, there was a point in my life when I too needed help. The help of my colleagues who, fortunately, were there for me, are still there, and to whom I want to extend a heartfelt thank you for everything they do for me and for other patients. I'm talking to you about this today because I think it's very important to break the taboos around mental health, especially among healthcare professionals who are currently suffering more and more. It's important to show that vulnerability is not a weakness. I'm talking about it because you too, behind this screen, behind your smiles, behind your work, without your loved ones knowing, and maybe even right before their helpless eyes, you are silently falling apart. As a practicing psychiatrist, I had long believed that I always had to be incredibly strong, absolutely solid, and completely unshakable in every situation. However, one day, my own brain profoundly betrayed me as a direct and unfortunate result of debilitating somatic symptoms, persistent chronic pain, and the shocking discovery of a rare and challenging disease. Yet, in my life, I had already experienced painful events. I had already been through all sorts of tough times. But this time, my brain wasn't reacting the way it usually did. It wasn't absorbing anymore. It was reacting differently. That wasn't me. The person I saw, the person I felt, that wasn't me. And then I got scared. I got really scared. The kind of fear that never leaves you. Today, I'm going to tell you how that turning point changed everything I was sure of. How, despite my knowledge, despite my profession, I too had to ask for help. And above all, I believe that you too, those of you listening to me today, have the right to falter and, most importantly, to talk about it and to heal. You know, in our profession, we're not taught to complain. We're taught to listen. We're not taught to talk about ourselves. We're taught to hold on, to remain professional, to make diagnoses, to follow protocols. We become experts in other people's suffering. But our own suffering, we stifle it, we deny it, we don't complain. And then there's this silent social pressure that often goes unspoken. Oh, you're a doctor, you can't get sick. Oh, really? Doctors get sick too? Said in a dismissive tone, with a hint of fake cheerfulness. Society has ended up creating the myth of the invincible caregiver. But I have to tell you something. Physical pain, and especially psychological pain, makes no distinction between patients and doctors or caregivers. It strikes without warning. Even those who wear white coats, even those who on the surface seem to have everything under control. And in my daily work as a psychiatrist, I've treated many people in white coats. Far too many white coats, if you ask me. You know, the job we do is very difficult. And there are many factors related to doctors that can be the cause of this depression or simply burnout, which is a form of depression with a professional origin. I'll mention a few of them to you. In my profession, we have an excessive workload with endless hours, on-call shifts, standby duties, a buildup of consultations and technical procedures, and no time to recover. And the administrative pressure is constantly increasing with too much time spent on paperwork, coding, certificates, and complex interactions with insurance companies, Social Security, and sometimes even the medical board. We still have unintuitive medical software in some hospitals. There is a major lack of recognition, with little social and financial appreciation, especially in France, and constant, ever-increasing criticism from the public or the media, which leads healthcare workers to doubt their usefulness or the impact of their work. Or even a society that ends up with backs like these. And the biggest problem right now is the violence and aggression from patients or their families. It should also be noted that healthcare workers suffer from professional isolation. With little room for expression or support and a culture of silence and stoicism, especially among medical staff, doctors experience emotional and compassionate shock from the accumulation of difficult situations, deaths, suffering, mistakes, and chronic emotional fatigue, which can lead to conflict between professional and personal life. With the difficulty of balancing professional demands and family life, this can create guilt or tension at home. These are overall factors that can contribute to making a doctor feel bad, so bad in fact that it can trigger an illness, depression, because depression is an illness. And I am a doctor, so I was supposed to be strong. And even in my personal life, I was seen as the strong woman, the one people could rely on, the one who always listened, always there for others, always smiling, always available, always in control, always standing tall, come what may, despite life's events, despite the difficulties. I had even forgotten myself that I was also a woman, a mother, a wife, simply a human being with my own emotions, my weaknesses, my feelings, my limits, and those my limits are important. You know, I still remember the day when everything changed. I remember it with a lot of emotion. The day when my mind and my body said, stop. It didn't happen all at once, you know. It started very gradually with insomnia, a fatigue that coffee couldn't fix anymore, and that seemed to get worse even though my schedule was getting lighter and lighter. And even when I was resting, I was tired while resting. I became irritable, even very aggressive. My family didn't understand it, since they didn't know me like that. There were tears and this urge to cry all the time that I often held back and only let out in the bathroom, sometimes between 2 appointments. And then there was this feeling of being there without really being there. That discomfort you feel, that sadness you feel, even at a party, even while smiling, even while doing things that would normally have made you happy. Yet I kept listening to my patients, kept doing my job, but inside I was withering away. I felt empty. I was no longer myself. One morning, I looked at myself in the mirror and saw a woman who was still standing, but who was collapsing, falling apart, emptying out inside. And that day, I knew that if I didn't do something, I would collapse and not be able to get back up. I felt psychologically weakened, and it was different. It wasn't like usual. I picked up my phone for the first time. I hesitated, then put it down. I fell asleep hoping it would pass, but it didn't pass. Then I picked up the phone again and called a colleague. But not as a colleague. Why that colleague? I have no idea. I called her as a patient. I had crossed to the other side of the mirror and, I was at a loss. I was both a doctor and a patient at the same time, and I don't know if you can really describe what that feels like. At the first appointment, I arrived at her office hesitantly. I wanted to turn back. I wanted to cancel my appointment because I felt ashamed. Yes, that was the theme. I felt ashamed because I was asking myself several questions. What if I was being judged? What if people took me less seriously because I was breaking down? What if I lost credibility? What if my colleague no longer looked at me the same way? But to my great surprise, I felt relieved. For the first time in a long while, I was listened to, heard, without judgment, without having to be strong, without having to wear a mask. And that did me an immense amount of good. It was liberating. It allowed me to get back on my feet. Obviously, in my particular case, the physical condition is still there. I will learn to live with it. But my mind is stronger to face it now. This ordeal has changed me and taught me a lot. I realize that asking for help isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of clarity. It's acknowledging that you can't carry everything on your own. It takes great strength to know when to say stop. I'm not doing well. And to ask for and accept help. I realize that even caregivers, even doctors have the right to break down and must be listened to, cared for if needed, and that you can't support others in their suffering while ignoring your own. By the way, on that note, the medical councils in the various departments of France have understood this well and are setting up dedicated structures to support doctors in distress. Today, I am a more humane, more present psychiatrist. I believe I have become a better version of myself because I too have gone through that inner night that is so hard to describe. And I came out of it stronger, not because I never fell, but because I learned how to get back up. You know, in life, everyone falls. But strength, real strength, is getting back up. If you stub your toe on a stone, as the saying goes, use it to build something. If you fall into a deep hole, take out the precious stones or oil from it. For those of you watching me behind this screen, if you too feel down on the edge of the abyss, if you have trouble getting up in the morning, if you keep hiding behind a mask while feeling sad and empty, if you feel like you're no longer yourself, this message is for you. You are not alone. You have the right to feel bad. You have the right to feel sad. You have the right to feel empty. And above all, you have the right to ask for help. Seeing a mental health professional doesn't mean you're crazy. It means you're human. It means you're responding in time. If you've watched this video up to this point, I'd like to know in what circumstances you had to see a mental health professional. Let me know in the comments. I'll read them. Ask your questions. My team and I will be happy to answer you. If this story touched you, share it. It might just save a life. And above all, subscribe for more real, human, and helpful videos. On Docta Business, we talk about the mind, the heart, and sometimes even business. Don't forget, your mind is your strength. Please take good care of yourself, and I hope to see you again very soon.